have some speeches, and each table will quickly nominate a person to come up and give an impromptu speech as well. And then after that we'll have dessert, and after dessert we will have the family hulu. Gotcha? Okay. I think that's all I was going to say. Oh, sorry, no, I knew there was something I forgot to tell you. The music, we picked the top 5. Hey, quiet in the cheap seats back there. Cousins between 19 and 21. We picked the music so that we could have the top 5 songs of each of the 9 decades of Mum's life. And some of the music is retro and really good now, and it's just been quite fun to have that. And the other thing I wanted to say is thank you to Frankie, because Frankie did the story about Dad, the coconut bomber that's over there on the wall. And because of her project, when she was left with us and we didn't know her project was due, we all got into this together. And it's been really, really fun. And because of that, we got Dad's medals as a gift to Mum as well. So Dad's medals are there, and the story about how he was called a coconut bomber. And that's just making Dad here. Okay, so Ange will start off, and we'll go from there.
Sorry, I should have you on these speeches. It's just great to have so many family together, and particularly where it doesn't involve a corpse. So, Mum, great to have you here. I've been nominated to speak, to say a few words, and coming from a family of people who love public speaking, it's a great honour, and I call it picking on the youngest. But as I said, there's not many occasions that will bring this many family together these days. And Mum, I think it's an indication of how special you are to us to have the family here, and what a fantastic occasion to be able to celebrate with you. It's quite a daunting task to speak about someone whose life covers such a span, and who means so much to us and has had such an impact on all of our lives. And even grandkids and great-grandkids, Mum has had more impact than you realise on your lives, because our parenting skills we have inherited from her, and we had a great model there. We haven't always necessarily picked up the model as well as you might have liked, but so just saying that, I mean, I recognise what any one of us knows about Mum is just a very small part. And I remember last year we visited Mum's dad's grave, and I remember Mum reminiscing about hanging out with her pop, you know, and realising that in each of us there are these multiple identities that we carry. You know, we were as a child, as mother, as friend, as lover, as whatever it is. And so I know that when I speak, I only know I can't do justice to Mum's life really, because I know it's only a very small part. But what I can do is talk about what I know about and what I'm grateful for. So I think for Mum, what stands out is, I guess, thinking about is her ability as a homemaker. Now, if you know me, you'll probably be quite surprised to hear me say that, because it sounds very un-PC. But I'm not talking really about Mum's cooking, cleaning, sewing skills, although she certainly had those. And let me tell you, she had some tips about tidying. 10 seconds to a tidy lounge when you had unexpected visitors pull up. Everything behind the couch in the corner. Those are skills I'll take with me. But really, when I'm talking about Mum's skill as a homemaker, it's someone who really held the home together. Mum was really the heart of our home. She made it a place where you felt loved and accepted, you felt safe. It's a place where you could cry, where you laughed a lot and things like that. And she and Dad made a great team in that respect. But although Mum always referred to Dad as the boss, we all knew that if Dad was the boss, Mum was more like God. She was a higher power.
There was definitely a two here.
one person who truly appreciated what a wonderful person you are, Mum. And it was anyone that knew you as a couple could see that and saw that really you were the centre of his world. You were the reason he got up in the morning, really. And the way that you supported each other, very annoying for kids when you want to use a divide and rule sort of technique. Okay. The affection and respect you had for each other, the humour that you shared, these are treasures that even though Dad is gone, that you still have to hang on to. And they're treasures that you've actually passed on to us as well. Because I always find, well, I'm speaking for myself personally, but I imagine it's true for the others, that really your model of a relationship has been an inspiration and a model for me, and one that, you know, has spoken to me a lot. And I know Dad's spirit is with us here tonight. And I know what he'd want to say to you, Mum, if he was here. He'd want to say, I love you. I'm immensely grateful for the time we had together, because they were truly the best years of my life. Sorry. Let me just, okay. So one thing I have to say is that Mum was extraordinarily good at raising kids, which was just as well, because she had 7. And perhaps because I'm the youngest, maybe I had the better end of that. So maybe Pete has a different view on it. You know. But I doubt it. Okay. And I think one of the key things was that she really enjoyed kids, and she does enjoy kids. And she had a rare ability to strike a balance between setting boundaries and giving us freedom to make decisions and not interfere too much and things like that. Mum's someone who rarely gives advice unless it's sought, but she's always there to support when she's needed. And her support is always shown in quiet, practical help, you know, things that need to be done. I remember certainly, and I'm sure others have had this experience, when Finn was born, you know, first baby, and Mum came down and had that first week with me, and just being there, and suddenly meals would appear, and I hadn't even thought about, you know, it being dinner time or anything like that, and just the quiet support, you know, the advice, you know, sometimes babies just cry, they're a pain in the ass. Sorry. But just that sort of support and wisdom was just really valuable, and I know all of us have benefited from that. That kindness was also shown to wider families. So we had Mum's mum come and live with us, and Dad's dad come and live with us, and Mum cared for them, and Mum's brother Bob, she nursed him in his last months and things too. So all those things were just, there was never a big deal made of it. It was just what you did because it was family, and that's what Mum did, and that's the model that she gave. And Mum is a deeply compassionate person, not just with family, certainly with family, but always things like foster kids, you know, just anyone who needed help, and she's been a big, you know, force in her community, particularly the church community and things like that. I was remembering something as an example of that sort of compassion that Mum had. I remember one time a few of us kids, when we were quite young, I suppose, I don't know, it must have been about 7 or 8 or something. We went down to the wharf fishing and things like that, and we got chatting to some Filipino sailors who were there on the wharf, and they took us up into the boat and showed us around, and, you know, took us into their cabins, and then we thought, oh, you know, maybe we should bring them home. So we rang up from the ship, you know, saying, hi Mum, guess where we are? So, you're where? And you're with who? We said, oh, they're really nice, can we bring them home for dinner? Can we keep them? And as a mark of what Mum is like, she said yes. Not that we could keep them, but we could bring them home. And so they came for Sunday dinner, but one of them didn't come, and it was a guy who they had pretty rough conditions on this boat, and there had been, he'd had a fight basically, and with one of the officers over something, and he'd ended up been taken to court and things like that. And Mum went and visited him in prison, so really a virtual stranger, visited him in prison and went to his court hearing. Later kept contact. I know that you sent regular support and money and things like that. It's really, and I think that's kind of an indication of the sorts of things. That's one instance. There were lots of things like that that happened throughout our lives where there was a need, Mum stepped in and did those sorts of things, and out of a deep sense of compassion, I think. And I think you can see that too in the quality of the relationships she has. So, things like neighbours turn into friends. So it's lovely to have Ron and Marion with us here. And I know Dot would have loved to have been here because Dot and Bill were also neighbours who became friends. And friendships that, through the church and things like that, that have endured for decades and are quite deep, strong friendships. And I think that often a mark of what someone is like is the relationships and the friends that they have. And looking at that, I think they do you proud, Mum. But if Mum's starting to sound a bit like a candidate for sainthood, we should probably say that she's actually a bit more fun than that. So I think anyone that knows Mum, I think one of the things that may strike you is that she has a great sense of humour. And actually it's quite a subversive sense of humour. She likes to play this little old lady sometimes with her suits to get the most. But she's quite a zany sort of sense of humour. I remember one time when I was in Dunedin studying down south, and it was Easter, and I got a card in the mail, an Easter card from Mum that said, I opened it up, it said, Happy Easter Nana. Okay. But in front of it, Mum had written BA, so it was actually Happy Birthday Banana. Slightly cryptic, I thought, okay. I opened it up and someone says, oh look, I bought this when I didn't have my glasses. And I got home, I said, but I wasn't going to waste the cards. But she could also be into the tough love, okay. And this is where her nursing career came in handy for raising kids. Because, there was always that thing, we never got to stay home easily, short of going into a coma or having a limb fall, unless you had a temperature, you could not stay home from school. So if ever a kid came up and said, I don't feel well, that inevitably it was met with the response of, where's the thermometer? And I guess in that respect, we're probably lucky that she trained as a nurse rather than a vet. Anyway, and it didn't work every time, because I do remember one time where I went to school, having said that I was sick and that I failed the thermometer test, I went to school and threw up in the classroom. It was immensely satisfying. Mum would pick me up. Thermometer doesn't work every time. Okay. Is there anything else I can say? Okay. No, but I do have to say, Mum didn't often get it wrong, actually. And she has helped so many of us in so many ways. And I think she still continues to do that. I think you still continue to be an inspiration, Mum. And I'm thinking of the last few years where you've had an awful lot of challenges come all at once, that you've had to deal with. And I think that you've dealt with them the same way that you've dealt with the challenges that have come through life. With stoicism, which is a much underrated, I think, quality, and with a great sense of humour. I think one of the important things I learned from Mum is that there are few situations that aren't made better by laughing. And that's something I'm extremely grateful for. So I just want to say that we're really happy to be here to celebrate your 90th, Mum. We're really happy that you're here to celebrate your 90th. You mean so much to us, more than I could ever express in words. And we love you, and we just sing happy birthday. So I'd like to propose a toast. Mum, where's my glass one? So, happy birthday, Mum. Happy birthday, Gladys.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
We're going to sing happy birthday now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gladys. Happy birthday to you. Now,
Man speaks next.
not you next. No, who's doing absent friends? Who's, yeah, Nick, go for it.
Well, I am going to do a toast to absent friends, but not quite yet. I just want to add a couple of quick thoughts. First of all, thanks so much, Ange, because I was sitting there thinking at the start when Gloria mentioned about, maybe other people coming up. I was thinking, well, what would be the thing I would talk about if I did come up? And I thought of so much of what you said, which was all about the type of person Grandma is. And she is, I don't think I've ever met a person that is non-judgmental as Grandma. She might think it up here, and believe me, there's a lot of stuff she probably thinks about. And I think Granddad had a good old saying, what the things you see when you haven't got a car. But yeah, Grandma's the type of person, she may think it, but she doesn't say it. She doesn't upset people. But one thing I just want to mention, one funny thing that I remember is, we were round at her place once, and I remember going into the kitchen, turning on the hot water, and it was bloody hot, it was really hot. And I said to her, look, your hot water's really hot, do you want me to dump it? And she said, oh, look, she said, don't worry about it. She said, look, everyone messes with my hot water. She said, they go and people stay and they all say, oh, look, your hot water's too hot, I'll turn it down, Phil. She said, I just let them do it, and as soon as they're gone, I turn it back to them. A lot of you guys are going to want to talk tonight, so I'm not going to say anything else, but I am going to propose that toast. Grandma, Kate's got a message for you that you'll get to hear at some point. That's right, and Mum as well, and there's a lot of family overseas, Tracy as well. People who can't be here, we've got people from all over our family, it's a big family, who would love to be here. So I think we're lucky enough to be here, as Anne said, it really means a lot to us to be here with you. You're incredibly important to us. So for those who haven't been able to be here, I'd like to propose a toast to absent friends.
We all love you, Grandma, and I really liked when the time you played marbles with me.
Just while we're waiting for some of the Skype things to happen, which may or may not, but we think we've got it sussed, so bear with us on that. Mum, we've got, hopefully, fingers crossed, Tracy is online right now from Afghanistan. So if you don't cry, I promise I won't cry. And Kate's got some stuff to say, and we think Cheryl's also, but it's just gonna be a little tricky while we sort that out, which is why we have Tony running the show there. And in the meantime, people from various tables would come up and say a few things, and I just want to say about that 10-second cleanup. What I the month before we got married was not just the 10-second cleanup. Auntie Edna came to visit. Remember Auntie Edna? I won't finish that line. And Mum said, oh, Edna's walking up the driveway, and she went into the kitchen on Mansfield Ave and grabbed the pledge and sprayed it on the light bulb in the living room. And then took the tea towel and waved it. And she said, I'll tell you later. And she said to me, when she was a young nurse down in the grade, her job was to polish matron's office when she finished night shift each night. And sometimes she didn't have time because she was like delivering babies, which was hopefully more important. So what she would do is take a bit of the cedar oil on a cloth and rub it on the light bulb on matron's lamp and turn it on. And then matron would come and go, oh yes, Nurse Washington, that's very lovely, well done. And to this day, my 10-second clean has grabbed that pledge and hit the light bulb. So thank you for that. Okay, how are we going? Right, somebody else come and have a word. Talk amongst ourselves, please.
I think we got one at the back.
At the back, at the back. The 19 to 21-year-old group.
Okay, I made some quick notes, so I'm not quite sure how well this week performed yet. But good evening, I'm Hamish. It's a bit cold tonight, isn't it? Walking outside. It's not a very good night, is it? But anyway, I'm a swimmer, as you can see from my hair. It's nice and blonde from the pool. That's right. But one thing I like about my grandmother is that even though she doesn't like water and swimming, she always comes down, she supports me at the pool when I'm up in Napier, or when I'm down at the, what do you call it, the lagoon, I guess. Ocean swim there once. She came down and she watched me, which was very nice. And another thing I like is how even though over the years I've broken quite a few of her things in her house, I can't exactly tell you all the things I've broken. I'll tell you two things. I broke the nun in her car. I pulled that off and she wasn't very happy about that.
How sad.
I did like that nun though, it was very entertaining. Another thing I broke apparently was her beloved lemon tree. Apparently I killed that. I don't remember it. Yeah.
Probably a father.
Even though I was quite naughty and did break many a thing, I'm sure she still loves me. And I'm sure she still loves all the other grandkids, even though I'm sure they've broken things as well. Maybe not as much as I've broken, but yes. But I was just trying to but anyway, yeah, I know she still loves me and all the other grandkids, and she's a wonderful grandmother. I love her to bits, and I'm sure all the other grandchildren do as well, and I'm sure we couldn't ask for a better grandmother, so thank you. It means a lot to us all.
Keep talking. Can you hear me?
Yes! Say hello, everyone. Hi!
Hi, Grandma. I'm Tracy. I'm talking to you from Afghanistan. I'm short to the board keeping you up to date on our adventures. I'm just finishing up my time here in Afghanistan, and then I'll be going to Canada. So I look forward to green trees, clean air, and fresh tomatoes. Eric and the kids are safely tucked away in Denver right now while I'm working out here. And my oldest daughter, Ashley, just finished high school and will start community college in September. She's getting to study computer information technology. Taylor is 13 and is quite a budding artist, and this is where we expect to excel it. Jake is an active 7-year-old who loves riding his two-wheeler bike, but he will also sit down and be backgammon with anyone who will play. I think in New Zealand we would call him a great baby. Eric is still our rock at home, taking care of the kids. And I was just really happy that I could be here to say happy birthday to you today. But I also wanted you to know that even as a young 10-year-old visiting my new grandma at Mansfield Avenue, I was so impressed by how you could always see the crowd. But one of the greatest things you ever gave me was your recipe for pineapple fruitcake. I still make it at least once a year, and some things just must continue. Grandma's pineapple fruitcake being one of them. So thank you for that. So I hear you're having enough parties lately to rival the Queen. Good on you, Grandma. I'm loving you out here from Afghanistan, and I hope you have a great evening.
Love to you too, Tracy.
Love to everyone in New Zealand. I know you're all listening.
Hey, hang on. Tracy, Grandma wants to just come and say hi to you. So she's making her way
Okay,
with,
sounds good.
with the royal assistance.
That sounds great.
Hi, Tracy. It's lovely to hear you.
Hi, Grandma. How are you?
I'm well happy and I'm thrilled that you can talk to me. I really am. And
I'm really glad I could as well.
and I'll be very pleased once you're out of Afghanistan. And
Oh, me too. Me too.
and I think you're very well. And it's amazing how they coach with families from one coast to another. And
Yep, they're great kids.
yes,
Great
they
kids.
are. And I love you really with us when you were, 10 or 11 years old. And I've always...
That's right. I was 10 in 1979. Showed up and met my new grandma.
You're a lovely kid. You had a great number of other kids to look after at times, and she just turns out tough always. And
Oh,
I send my love to you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Loving you from Afghanistan here too. Have a good evening. Enjoy your time with the family.
So next up will be Kate when we get her lined up. We've got a recorded message from Kate. And so give us a second, we'll have it on for you.
Okay. Okay.
Hi Grandma, I guess I should start in the traditional way and say happy birthday. I hope you're having a fantastic time with all your friends and family, and I really wish that I could be there to be there with you and celebrate. Yesterday I had my last day as a physiotherapy student, and today I had my first day as an actual physiotherapist. So I'm finally entitled to give out irritating advice and stuff about exercise and healthy eating and whatnot. I remember back to when I lived with you for those 2 years, which were 2 of the best years of my life. And I can honestly say that you are the most fantastic grandma I've ever looked after. How you managed to not kill Timmy after all the time from the left, I don't know. You must have the patience of the saint. I was cleaning up the other day looking through some old pictures, and I found one that you'd written to me from when I lived in Ireland. And it said, happy birthday, Kate. I bought you a lottery ticket, and if it wins, I'll deliver it personally. So you better keep your birthday party. I just want to say thanks for being such a wonderful grandma. I really, really, really love you, and I hope you have a really good day. Bye.
As much as we love you, you need to get rid of that clock in your lounge. And I stayed there, and me and Mandy and Nancy sat in your lounge once. You went to sleep, and we took the clock off the wall and took the batteries out and put it under the couch until we woke up again. Because then you hear us a tick. So the only fault you have is that clock. That's all I got. Love you so much.
Just in case she still looks like too much of a saint. There's two things I remember. One time, Grandma, I got to learn more about you than I probably learned in years and years and years, and that was when we had a road trip together. And I drove Grandma from Napier down to Wellington, and it was just the 2 of us, and by the end of the trip, I don't think either of us had any voice left. It was laughing and crying and stories. But there were 2 things. One told me it was a reflection of just how old you are. and you've seen history. And the other is just how saintly you aren't, really. The how saintly you aren't was, I learned heaps about your life as a young woman, as a nurse, and your adventures, and your friend Ruth, and a time in life, like Andrew was saying, where you all only know these pieces of your life, and so as a grandkid I didn't know this part until your road trip. But you talked about working in the TB hospital, I think it was. And that sounded like a sad time in life in one way, but also adventurous for you as a young woman who was this nurse in a nursing hospital with room to get in trouble. But you said one day, me and Ruth thought we'd sit under a tree and try this smoking thing. And you said, we tried it, didn't see what all the fuss was about. Finished the packet. Grandma's not always the same. And how old you are. I learned on that trip, you were telling me about a time in life during when TB was something that could kill people, and it was a regular thing. And you saw a phase of life that we just can't imagine in our lives or your lives or any young generation. But you were telling me about how much it seemed like a miracle when you saw penicillin come in. And it was just, you said before penicillin, when you were a nurse, people just died all over the place, and then like overnight there was this miracle cure thing called penicillin, and how you saw people just all of a sudden be able to stay alive. And you've seen something that we just don't think about. But that was just one of the best road trips I've ever had, and I just wanted to say, I think you'll remember that road trip. It was something where I was a very lucky grandkid, because there's a lot of us, and I got to have 4.5 hours of your undivided attention. Happy birthday, Grandma.
We will now have the messages.
I have the royal telegrams. Back in the old days they had telegrams. We have emails now. And these emails, there's a card that's come, Bernie and his wife Veronica phoned and said, Auntie Glad's turning 90. I said, that's right, Bernard, she is. He says, well, jolly good. He says, now we're just off to Spain. Everybody, all McGurrs are off to Spain. This is the new thing right now. And the McGurrs and Greymouth are off to Spain. Anyway, Bernard and Greymouth is off to Spain. But Bernard and Greymouth said, please tell Auntie Glad that she has a very special place in my heart, because she took us in when life was really, really hard for us. And you know, he's never forgotten that. It may not have been a long time, but to have his mum being taken off to hospital and not knowing what was going to happen, but Auntie Glad made everything right. The other two messages are from a time when, this is how we sort of discovered Bernard again, when Mum was sort of having problems with her sight and feeling a bit, you know, don't think I should travel the world anymore. Her sister-in-law, Madge, passed away in Christchurch. And Mum, you know, she wanted to go, but it's really hard to do those things, and so she didn't think she would. But I said, put your blind badge on, and we'll get you sorted, and the stewardess will get you on the plane. Well, Mum played it up. Boy, could she play it up? She had the blind badge on upside down. Nice touch, Mum. Nice touch. But the best part about it was, I phoned Bernard and said, have you retired? And he said, yes. I said, great, so you could go to the airport and pick Mum up. So he picked Mum up and he took her to Madge's funeral. And Mum's niece and nephew, Davina and Mark, well, Mum's the only family left. And they have both told me several times now that when Auntie Gladys came, everything was better. So I have two messages here. One is from Mark, who might possibly be in Nelson conducting the Symphonia of the College of GPs, or not, depending on the weather. Hello, Auntie Gladys. Warmest congratulations on reaching this special milestone. I'm so sorry I can't be there to celebrate with you. I send you all my best wishes and love, Mark. And Davina said, she phoned us up and she said, I started cross-stitching a special card for Auntie Gladys, and then I thought, I won't finish it and she probably won't see it, so I threw it away. The Presbyterian side of the family, they never waste time. They don't waste anything. Anyways, this is from Davina. Hi, Auntie Gladys. Congratulations on your 90th birthday. I remember how pleased Dad was when he passed your father's age. But you have now beaten all of them, except for Great Aunt Rose. And I'm sure you're going to achieve that one too. In fact, I'm looking forward to celebrating your centenary with you in 2023. She can organize it. I hope you have been having a wonderful evening with all your family. I will try and catch up with you on the phone soon. Love and very best wishes, Davina. So that's from your other side. We got Shirley? Have we got Shirley on the phone? Anybody got Shirley organized? She's on the Skype.
She rang last night.
Have we got her on Skype?
I don't know. Get her on
No,
Skype.
she talked last night. I thought she, no, it's done.
No, I spoke to her today.
Oh, okay.
She would like to Skype. Yeah. She's ready.
So, she's ready now.
3 hours.
Okay, it's going to take a wee while to get you online. But there is one other toast we have to do, one acknowledgement we have to make. And we'll be singing about it a bit later, but of course the presence in the room that we're not seeing is one Francis Patrick. And Dad was the other half of the family that made us what we are, really. And although he's been dead a long time in some senses, as far as I'm concerned, and I think as far as most of us kids go, Dad has a real presence with us still. He's there as part of us, as part of our fire, of our being. And in that sense, he's as alive as he ever was. And I know that at times Mum misses him terribly. And in some senses I do too, but there is always a sense that Dad, especially when we get together like this, that Dad's right here. And he never did say all that much in these sorts of situations, but he was always there as Mum and Dad together. And from that point of view, you know, one of the last things I ever heard him say, when we were sitting at home in Napier, and he was really at the point where his brain just didn't work anymore. But there was always a part of him that was him, that was present, even when he couldn't remember stuff. And one of the last, and I can't remember who it was to, but he said, your mother, I guess it was to me, I don't know, I think it was to me. Yeah, it's coming on, believe me. Oh my God, it's coming on. Senior moments like you wouldn't believe. But he said, you know, your mother, she is a wonderful, wonderful woman. And this was the same time that she told, I think, Em, or Nancy, or was it Em or Nancy, that she would. He said a blood's worth coffee. And I guess we took that pretty seriously, that we had to look after Mum pretty well. And we have, and that's no big deal. But I think we have to acknowledge Dad now, because and when you see our family picture, if you noticed it when we came in, the McGurr family were very close. 7 kids, 2 parents, and the odd grandparent floating around from here from time to time. And I suppose in some senses, we were quite a closed group. We minded our own business quite a lot of the time. We weren't the most socially outgoing, but as a family, we were pretty darn tight. And Mum and Dad were the rock that we had that made our family. And like I say, Dad and Mum, between them, were totally committed to their faith. That their faith was the real deal. And I think to not acknowledge Dad here tonight with us would be an oversight. So I want you to raise a glass to Francis Patrick.
To the boss.
Yeah, right.
Hello, Mum. Perfect timing. Hang on 1 second. Okay, can you hear us?
Hello, very well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you're on. Just so that you know you're on, everyone's listening to you.
Yeah.
So no.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, have you got your camera available? Can you take your video?
Yeah. I'm not dressed for the occasion. It's hideous. So, how's it all been? I've been thinking about you. Dinner must be finished.
It's just a limitation of it.
Yes,
that there was Yes, we read about it. It sounded like a heck of a mess made on the coast. Well, people's houses with seawater and everything, oh my god, poor things. Just a sec. Steve was just wondering whose house you were at, but I did accept you.
God's house.
And did you get some birthday presents?
No, not really.
Stop telling the truth, you children.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, Travis, how are you?